Hey everybody, welcome to Santa Barbara Talks with Josh Molina. My top 10 most memorable favorite stories from 2023. These are stories I wrote. They're not necessarily the most important stories in terms of magnitude, but stories that I wrote that I remember that I'm going to be thinking about for a long time going forward. I just want to start off saying I wrote 381 stories last year, which is a lot of stories. I can't believe I wrote that many, but I did. And I guess I kind of can too, because I'm always busy. I'm always working. I love journalism. And that's really the only way you can be that productive is by loving what you do. So follow something that you love. Don't do something for the money. Do it for something you can look yourself in the mirror in the end of the day and be proud of what your work and feel like you made an impact. Okay. So number 10, Paseo Nuevo and the housing proposal in Santa Barbara. Rebecca Bjork called Jerry Roberts, Nick Welsh, and myself into room 15 to tell us about the fact that she is working with the developer, with the investment company to knock down, demolish Paseo Nuevo, and build 500 units of housing at least. This is huge. I love Paseo Nuevo. I have so many memories there. I love them all. I grew up in Goleta, Santa Barbara. It's such a big, significant part of my history here. Obviously, housing's more important. We'll see what's going to happen. I hope they can keep some of the architecture that Paseo Nuevo has, the tile walls, the tile floors, the arches. It's such a beautiful place, and really, I think it does really well. I think it works, but obviously, we need more housing, and that's a site that they're looking at. So I hope they're able to figure out a way to keep elements of the mall and do the housing that they want. Okay, number 9, not a news story, but I wrote a column about my son in August about him going to UC Berkeley, and I got so much response. I got over 100 emails, text messages from people saying they were so touched, they were so impacted. It's basically a letter to myself, to the community, to my son, just talking about how this person who had been with me for 18 years of my life was now going away to college and what that means in terms of the impact of just the whole change. And I know it's normal and it's the right thing to do for us. It's a privilege to go to college. We're so lucky to be able to have that opportunity. Um, so I get it, but it's still sad when somebody who you devoted much of your life to all of a sudden is no longer in the house at the end of the day, and you don't have those conversations anymore and those interactions. And so anyway, I wrote about that, and dads responded. I was so surprised. They said that they agreed and that it was first thing that they had read that made them feel safe to say it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be sad when your kids go away to college. And so it felt really good that I was able to have that resonance and that impact. Obviously, first semester is great, and it's still sad, still never good, but working through it, and the greater good here is, of course, what an incredible opportunity somebody he has to go to college. And so we're going to support that, and amazing things to come for that kid. So that's column I did all in Newshawk. Number 8, speaking of moments that affected me, Fresco Cafe closed. They used to be in Five Points, then they moved over to Santa Barbara on Cannon Bernardino Street. I can't even tell you how many French fries I've eaten there, turkey burgers. Don't even get me started on the desserts. Oh man, I love that place. And all of a sudden, that place is just gone overnight. I don't know why. The owner was a really good guy. Never told me why he left. Never heard from him again. But that was a great place to eat, especially great food, that middle price range, and a legacy, an institution. And I think somebody who was driven out, at least in the Five Point Center, by the increasing costs to lease space in this town. So it's not good. And that was, wrote that story, broke that story. I was very, very sad. Okay. Number 7, I got a couple government stories here. Councilwoman Kristen Sneddon stood up for budget transparency. She said, hey, the budget should not be confusing. It should be transparent. The information should be clear. The council was being asked to make decisions about impacting residents and services. And she's saying, I want to see all the numbers. I just don't want to see what you staffers predetermined for us to see and then make cuts on that. She wants to see the whole thing. So regardless of what you think of Councilwoman Sneddon and how she did it and her perspective and, budget knowledge or whatever, all the things that I heard, okay, regardless of that, she's bold, she's brave, she took a risk, she spoke out in a meeting to advocate for her clients, her residents, okay, her constituents. And that's a big deal. And we want that from elected officials. We want elected officials who are going to not let the people that they hire manage them. We want elected officials who are going to be people who take stands, to want to do the right thing. And that's what she did. It's always easier to go with the flow, to be part of the group, to just not make any waves. That's always the easiest path. And sadly, so many elected officials just do that because they want to get reelected and they're thinking about their next office. Councilwoman Sneddon didn't have to do that. And an advisor might have said, don't do that. But she did it because that's what she felt in the moment. And so that was a really good story. And it was at a government meeting that I watched, I picked up on, and I covered it. And it's so important to do that watchdog journalism, cover all those meetings, not just the big ones, but those budget committee meetings, which that was a budget conversation. Okay. I think this is like the last local government story. Metrolink is possibly going to come from Ventura County into Goleta, into Santa Barbara. This was an obscure little item on a budget, on an agenda. And so I heard that this was going to happen. I read the agenda and I wrote a story ahead of time, ahead about the conversation between all of these transportation agencies about possibly bringing Metrolink to help commuters from Ventura County into Santa Barbara and Goleta. When you write them ahead of time, it's like a really cool feeling for a journalist because you have the potential to get the information out and affect the public. See, government, anyone really with power, they want to keep that power and they want to keep doing what they want to do and stay on track. Other information is often detrimental to their plans. But what does a journalist do? We try to equalize that information. We try to give everybody access to the same information so that people can have power. We want to share and distribute the power because our democracy works best when people have the same access to information. It does not work well when those in charge say, this is how we should do it and do things. And then after they're done, ask people or tell people that it's happened. That doesn't work. The journalist wants to get all that information out first so that people can be part of the conversation. And that's the best way to do that. So the Metrolink story was like a big scoop. I don't even think the Metrolink people knew it was on the agenda. And so that's significant. So that's what journalists need to do. Who knows if it's going to happen? But what it did was got everybody talking. It's on the radar. And they can't just keep doing whatever they were going to do. The public now has a seat at the table. Okay. So number 5, the student walkouts. Dos Pueblos High School, San Marcos, Santa Barbara High School, they walked out in support of their teachers. This is unreal. Combined. Oh, and I want to throw in, I think Molina walked out too. I didn't cover that one though. 2,000 students, more 2,500 students combined walking out of class. They don't have to do that. Okay. It's much easier to just do the groupthink thing and just stay and not put yourself out there and take a risk. They support their teachers. The teachers are in a big contract dispute with the district, the administration, and regardless of what you think, okay, that's a theme throughout all this. I'm not taking a stand on any of these issues. I'm talking about the journalistic coverage and why it's important to get this information out to the public, okay? Regardless of what you think, they're brave. They take a risk. They're holding rallies. They're marching. And they're saying, we believe in this topic. We believe in our teachers, and we want them to get paid better. And by the way, they were affected because teachers stopped writing letters of recommendation. Teachers stopped hosting lunchtime clubs, stopped doing after school activities, some tutoring. This is all a significant impact on students, but the teachers feel like we have to do that in order for the district to pay attention. So that's part of that conversation. Okay. So, but I marched. I marched with these students, right? DP to Gersh Park, San Marcos to Tucker's Grove, Santa Barbara High to the district headquarters. Okay. And so I got good workouts there too. And very sore after that, but it's good. The journalists, we don't want to just sit and watch meetings on YouTube. We want to go out there where the action is, and that's where the best journalism is. Okay. So we're going to remember those stories for this year. I covered a rally for the release of hostages. This is story number 4 for the release of hostages taken by Hamas. Okay, this was at Goleta Beach, and this was a beautiful event, beautiful ceremony, such heartfelt emotion, such incredible speeches. There was a speaker there who had a family member who was taken hostage by Hamas, and just hearing that authenticity, hearing that pain, that hurt, just very gripping, very powerful. And they had a display out there on the sand. I took a whole bunch of photos, and I'm going to remember that story because it was just such an incredible moment for all those people involved. And I also covered a vigil in Delegaro Plaza too, which was equally just amazing. It was on the 1 month anniversary of the Hamas attacks, terrorist attacks. Okay. And then I also covered a rally for a ceasefire by individuals who protested out in front of Raytheon. And they were trying to make a stand, right? And so you love activism, you love the ability for journalists to tell the stories of activists. And they feel very strongly they want to cease fire, like stop this war. And everyone has an opinion out there. These people have opinions, and they are sacrificing themselves to put themselves out there, knowing that there's going to be a lot of judgment there. And it's incredible, incredibly powerful, incredible stories, incredible signs that they created, incredible emotion. They had paint on their hands, to symbolize blood on the hands. They're saying that, well, you can, what they're saying. And, the journalistic part of it is so sad, so touching, because here we have these groups that feel so strongly and they're so passionate about these issues, and to be able to cover them, just a little bit of that emotion is such a journalistic privilege, obligation, and responsibility. And so I'm going to remember both of those, and I'm sure I'm going to be covering more of that in 2024. Okay. Number 2, Doomer Elliot Jacobson. This guy, I did a podcast with him, and most views I've ever had of it, 2 of them actually, 22,000 views on that first podcast. He's a doomer. So he believes in climate change. He believes in the climate science, but he says it's too late. It's over. Humans have destroyed this planet. So this illusion that people live in, that riding electric bikes or driving electric cars is somehow going to save the environment, he says is wrong. And in fact, the energy it takes to produce these machines is actually more harmful to the environment. And so he says he's concerned about what's to come, what's next for the next species. All right. And so incredibly brilliant, fascinating guy. Elliot, if you're watching, I hope I didn't minimize the scope of your analysis of the situation. But Elliot Jacobson, by the way, a little celebrity in this town. I should have figured out how many Twitter followers he has, but it's, a lot, thousands and thousands and thousands of Twitter followers. And he's on CNN with some regularity talking about climate change. And that was a big story for me, a big story for my podcast. And by the way, think doomer, you think like depressed, sad. This is one of the happiest, most generous, kindest, positive, good people that I have met. It's just a realist, which says, don't buy into the politicians to the corporations who are trying to sell you this sort of story that if you do this, it's going to save the environment. He's saying it's too late. It's done. And we need to enjoy what we have and try to preserve the planet, not necessarily for humans, but for whoever's left, you know? And so really deep stuff. Go watch that podcast. It'll all make more sense when you hear him say it. Last thing, Santa Barbara News Press officially ended. #1 News Press officially ended. And so I broke that story from my computer on a Sunday, got the scoop. Here's the deal. Okay, I worked there from 1999 to 2006. And probably the best job I've ever had in terms of just like enjoyment and fulfillment, and in Santa Barbara and in my hometown, and had opportunity to work there. But for a lot of reasons, you can go watch Citizen, you know the name of the movie, you can go watch it and Google New York Times, all the stories, all that stuff that happened. Yes, I did have duct tape on my mouth and did walk out into Telecara Plaza and protested. I did it one time and then I left. I quit. I had a son, 1 year old, same kid I was talking about earlier, Jacob. And it's hard. Recently married, 1 year old, and you quit. Why? Why would you quit? A lot of people think that's stupid. A lot of people quit, right? It wasn't just me. A lot of people quit quicker than I did. Because journalism, what do we sell? Credibility. Okay. We sell the ability to tell the truth in our news stories. And if we feel like we can't tell that truth and not, you know, an angle of truth or partial truth, but the truth, then you kind of can't call yourself a journalist. Okay. So a whole bunch of people left, a whole bunch of people quit, and I quit, and nothing's ever been the same since. I've had to cobble together all kinds of jobs. I love the Mercury News job. Great money, right? The most money I ever made at a single 9-to-5 journalism job. Okay. But we didn't like the Bay Area and we came back, and that whole story, you can go research if you want to. But I quit the Mercury News and came home and been cobbling together all these jobs ever since. And so many other stories of these journalists, many of them gone into PR, a few of them are still in journalism, but so many lives impacted and disrupted. And it's a tragedy, right? It's a catastrophe. And for no good reason that this paper had to fall apart, okay? And so some of my best memories were in that News Press building. Some of the people that I respect and admire the most, I met inside that building, and it's so sad to see that there's no paper there. It's not like that paper was really doing anything journalistically anyway, but just the symbolism of that paper, that physical paper no longer being there. We don't know what's going to happen with the News Press building, but it's sad, you know. Thankfully, we have Newshawk, we have the Independent, the Daily Sound for a little while. We do have the Montecito Journal. We do have these other outlets that with lots of journalism, and that's great. But that one daily institution with resources behind it that could hit over and over and over and over again every day, holding government accountable, you know, that's been gone for a long time. And that's a sad, sad thing. And so I broke that story. By the way, got quoted in the LA Times, credited in these national newspapers as the paper reporter, the Newshawk reporter who broke that story. And so that was really cool. I was able to do that. So that's it. 381 stories that I did. Hopefully I don't have to write that many this year, but I got a funny feeling I probably will. But the best thing about it is fine if I do, because I love journalism. I love what I do. It's a privilege to be a journalist. It comes with great obligation, great responsibility, and I love it every second of it, right? Never had a bad day, a bad minute in journalism. All right, that's all. Visit SantaBarbaraTalks.com, my website. Visit SantaBarbaraPodcast.com, my website. Sign up for my newsletter. Hit subscribe on YouTube, and if you go to those sites, feel free to make a donation contribution to this podcast. Have a great day. Thank you.